in the dugout and on deck, I was repeating this phrase, like, God-fearing. Like, this is all I should fear, God. I shouldn't fear striking out. I shouldn't fear messing up. I shouldn't fear my batting average or making an error or any of these things.
Welcome to this week's episode of Trojan Time. Today we have Bryant Morales joining us in the studio. Bryant is on the Hannibal LaGrange baseball team and is also a follower of Christ. Bryant, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, nice to be here. Also, hi, Mom.
Okay, Bryant, first off, I just want to kind of learn some background about you, kind of where you came from and all that good stuff.
So, starting off as a kid, I was born in Puerto Rico, and I probably ended up being there until I was 3 or 4, and then I moved with my family all the way to Florida, which that's where I've been living ever since. And then last year, which was my first year of college, I ended up going to a JUCO up in New York, and then now I'm a sophomore attending Hannibal LaGrange up in Missouri. So, yep, that's pretty cool. That's pretty
Do you have any early memories of Puerto Rico, or is it basically just Florida?
It feels like dreams, I would say, it feels like things that I didn't really live through, but I have these vivid memories of just, how the people looked and just it's an island, so very tropical. Everyone's in tan gold skin, and not everyone eats a lot of food over there because the economy and all that. But yeah, they're more on the skinnier side, so it brings me back a lot of island vibes. And then it also reminds me of Florida because a lot of beach, but I'd say it's Florida's more advanced in all their technology and stuff. Yeah. So
your time in New York at your JUCO, kind of how'd you get there, and kind of how was it? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? How was it?
Yeah. So just like everyone else, I wanted to go to the next level of baseball, and all I felt like was I just needed a shot. I just needed an opportunity, Just give me the golden ticket. So I was just emailing schools, and I was fortunate enough to have one up in New York, and New York was always one of those bucket list things. Oh, I want to travel to New York. I've never been. So I was like, why not do both? I'll go travel to a new state, experience new things, and also get to play baseball. So I ended up going there. Yep, and I enjoyed it. I saw snow for the first time, experienced mountains, did crazy things like cliff jumping, just all these random things that I would never experience, along with playing baseball at the next level, which was great.
So after New York, you said you came here. That was your freshman year, and then obviously this is your sophomore year, and you're here at Hannibal. What brought you to HLG?
So I always thought that JUCO, I wanted to pursue more things than just JUCO. I wanted to find a home. I built a lot of connections at my JUCO, but I knew those weren't going to last as long because you're only there for 2 years. And with me leaving after the first year, I wanted to experience more things and also just extend my foundation and my connections with the people around me. So I wanted to commit to a 4-year and just have that time to connect with my coaches, my teammates, and just build friendships that last longer than 2 years that the JUCO can give you.
So we've both played at JUCO. Yeah. We both know kind of how JUCO is. Yeah. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. Yeah. It could always be worse.
Yeah, it could always be.
What are some differences that you saw kind of from the JUCO level to the NAIA level when you transferred over here?
Yep. So it kind of reminds me of how the whole high school thing, where I surrounded myself with buddies that we always wanted to play at the next level. So we always would grind, and we always would want to have that little chip on the shoulder, like, all right, I want to prove that I can do it at the next level. So I felt like the same energy was brought into JUCO because it feels like a 2-year contract, like MLB they have contracts where you're trying to prove yourself. So I feel like everyone was just trying to prove themselves in JUCO, trying to show out so then they can move to the next level. And I think when you have a bunch of guys that are trying to get to the next level and you put them as a team, it's a successful thing because everyone's hungry. And I felt like that's a really important thing about JUCOs. It's having that hunger, having that grit, the chip on the shoulder.
So when you came to the 4-year, do you think there's kind of less of that, less of that dog mentality? Because, usually when you're at a 4-year, that's your home. Yep. You don't plan to go nowhere usually. Yep. There are times where guys would transfer out, but usually, for the most part, if you're at a 4-year, you're there for good. Yep. So do you think there's a little bit less of that, mindset here?
I feel like there is, a comfort sense because you do know, where you're going to be. If you commit as a freshman, you do know you have all these years to grow. But also it is one of those things where you just want to impact the game right away. So it's either you're working your behind off in the off season to perform, and some people end up getting the shot right away and some don't. So I feel like with the 4-year, it's always about the long term, always making sure you're always working. So when you do get the opportunity, you can make it last for not just this season, but there's a more upcoming season. So you want to be able to leave your mark every year.
Okay, with coming to Hannibal, obviously this is a Baptist school. It's a Christian campus. What is how does faith affect your life on and off the baseball field?
I would feel like as the years have gone on and I've grown and just experienced things like anyone else, I felt that when I'm with God and I'm putting Him first, I feel like I'm more at peace. I'm not quick to anger. I see things more in a calmer sense, and it helps me on the baseball field because baseball, it's such an emotional game at times. Your people tend to base their identity on baseball on the results. So if you're having a good day or a bad day, you kind of feel like that's who you are in the moment. But like when I reach down and like I talk to God, it's always a reminder that like all these things don't matter. At the end of the day, like it doesn't matter. You can have all these possessions, all these things, but when you don't put God first, like there's an emptiness that you feel. And I feel like every time I put Him first, it's just like everything else ends up working out. So for baseball, like it just gives me clarity, saying like it doesn't matter. Like it allows me to play free, and in life, same thing. It allows me to see things that I would get angry. Oh, why haven't I had this? Or oh, why was I built into this lifestyle or all that? But then you start thinking that everything happens for a reason. And when you look back in life 5 years, you're like, oh, I'm glad all these things happened. So, and I didn't get all that without seeking God. I sought out God and all these things and perspectives on life, and just a more peaceful way of looking at things instead of being emotional, selfish, and all these things. I feel like all those emotions were pushed away once I started seeking God and just living a more calmer life, a more happy life.
Okay, and with that, is there a moment that you can think of that you were on the baseball field and you would just like, like why is this happening? Like you could you could be playing bad, not playing, but then like you looked to God and kind of found the answer, or kind of found a solution.
Yep. Right away, I think of last year at my JUCO, I was going through a rough stint, and I just like at the end of the day, like I put myself into perspective. I was like, dang, I'm all the way in New York, miles away from home. I'm playing a sport. And at the time I was sucking. So I was like, bro, like I started to realize none of this matters. Like this game doesn't matter. All that matters was God. And I started repeating this phrase. Like we had this playing a conference game, and in the dugout and on deck, I was repeating this phrase like God fearing. Like this is all I should fear. God. I shouldn't fear striking out. I shouldn't fear messing up. I shouldn't fear my batting average or making an error or any of these things. And once I started like realizing that and putting that perspective, I started performing better on the field and had a good game that time. And it just when I kept that mentality of realizing that the only thing I should fear is God, the only thing I should value is God, then all these things, like all these politics about baseball and just life, they strayed away and again brought me peace. And when you play with peace, you're going to play the best you can.
So in that answer, you mentioned kind of the being far away from home part. Does that ever do you ever feel like, holy crap, like I'm this far away from Florida, I'm in the middle of the country, yep. My family's not here. Like, does that ever like get hard, or like it? I mean, is that a challenge for you? Or I know some people some people are fine with it. Like some people don't have a problem. Like obviously they miss their family, but like some people struggle more with it.
Yep. I would say it was for sure hard, but at the same time, it's one of those things where like it just, again, I put myself in perspective. I'm like, for some crazy reason, God has His whole planned out. I'm just living it already. All these things that I'm gonna do or I already have done in life, He planned it out. So I just like started to appreciate and think like, for some reason I was supposed to be in New York. For some reason I'm here in Missouri, and wherever I end up being next outside of school, for a job, for a family, all that, everything happens for a reason. So I started to think perspective-wise that like, and again, it just brings me peace realizing that like He has it planned out. So whatever I'm going through, it's supposed to happen. And the whole thing with being away from family is I always try to make sure I'm in contact with them. We have our little family group chat and stuff like that. And just, a big thing is always checking up like towards like the end of the week or on days like you have a good day or a bad day, just making sure I'm calling my parents, and like those small things just keep you attached to home. And another thing that's helped me is back at my JUCO, I had my roommates and they became my family, and you start having that family there. So now I have extended family, and then now over here in Missouri, I've had I've had all the boys, all the Goombas. Just yep. I've had build a new family, and then that helps me feel a community, a sense the same that I would have back in Florida with my family. So
yeah, for sure.
it helps me not feel too lonely all the way away from home.
So has coming to Hannibal, has it helped kind of further your relationship with Christ?
I would say yes. I would say I always believe in this thing that the old saying, oh, if you're surrounded by 5 poor people, you're going to be the 6th. If you surround yourself with 6 people if you surround yourself with 5 people that procrastinate, you're going to be the 6th. And I just believe that if I want to become a better person, if I want to learn more about Christ, and I want to have a relationship with him, why not surround myself with people like that? And it's like anything, relating back to baseball. If you want to become a great hitter, you're going to study the greats. You're going to nitpick from everyone, and you're going to make your own swing. So same thing, I feel like with my relationship with God. I'm going to see people my own age or people older than me, younger than me, and see how they deal with things and how they're not perfect, but they make their own way. And it just inspires me and makes me feel more comfortable to make my own way without feeling that I'm not doing too much or that I'm not up to the standard that I should be. So I feel like it's great. If you want to be great, you should surround yourself with great people. So I feel like I'm at a great spot here at Hannibal.
So kind of building off growing your relationship with Christ. We attend FCA every week. Kind of how does like those little events that we do as a baseball team, how does that also help kind of further your relationship with Krim?
I would say that it's always a reminder. It always resets me that it's on a Monday, the start of the week, It resets me be able to, again, talk to people that are my age and just have a little community. And, I always go after FCA, I never regret going because it's one of those things where in the beginning it could seem like a chore. You have homework, you just want to rest from your long day, but, there's always a sense that, all right, I should be here. I should be going here. And then once you start going now, you realize the side effects that you just end up getting closer with him. And then you get to also benefit by being around good company. So I would say that FCA has helped me a lot in the sense that, like I said before about the whole community thing. When you surround yourself with people that are trying to get closer to Christ, it's going to just benefit you because you want to get closer to Christ. So you should just surround yourself with people like that. And always there's been times where I'm like, oh, I have a long day. I want to do homework. I want to just relax. But then I know there's FCA. So I always try to make time for it. And on Mondays, it starts your week off. It's a resetter. You start realizing your morals and all these ideas of realizing that you shouldn't value anything above God. You could lose your way. But when you're always on Monday, it's always a reminder. And then when you always get reminded of something, it becomes a habit. So I feel like if I want to make God a priority and make him a focal point, I should always remind myself of that. It's not like a one and done type thing.
So being a student athlete and a Christian, how do you balance all that? So I know obviously we have busy schedules. We practice every day. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we have games on the weekends, even sometimes games on the weekdays, and then plus homework and school, and then trying to set time aside for Christ. That way you don't lose that relationship with him. How do you manage all that?
Well, first off, I would like to shout out, I got my first tattoo over winter break, and it is of a silhouette of a man on a tightrope, and I got that for the exact reason of balance and how I realized that everything has their time. Everything is supposed to happen for a reason. There's highs and there's lows, and you got to realize that everything in moderation, there's a balance to everything. And that's why I got the tattoo, and it's also a reminder of how I deal with my faith and my friends and baseball is you got to make time for everything that you value. Some people, they value sports, so they're going to put time to get their reps in the sport. Some people value other things, and they're going to make time for that. So I go crazy in my notes. I go crazy in my notes on my phone and just writing out plans and just writing out things I want to do. And then when you're able to write them all down, now you can realize, all right, I have these key things, key events, and I start realizing, all right, in the morning, my key event is school. After that, my afternoon event is baseball and practice. And then my night event, that's basically it's a free-for-all for me. That's when I fit my time in with Christ. That's when I'm able to go on my phone and read my Bible app and start reading these chapters and also just recapping on the day because towards the end of the night, everything has already happened today, you're able to reflect. If you feel like you've been getting closer to him, you're able to just take an honest look. And also, it's at night when nobody's watching, so you can be as honest as you want. So I feel like just setting aside times and just keep experimenting. Maybe you think you're a morning person, so you're like, oh, in the morning I'm going to read my Bible. But then you realize you're not. So then you try experiment it and do it at night. So it's all about finding whatever works for you. You know, creating that balance and always realizing that you can't spend 100% of the day doing homework. You can't spend 100% of the day reading the Bible. You gotta split up your time. So it's being self-aware that you're not able to do everything at once, and that as long as you're taking baby steps every day, like the quote, you know, be 1% better every day. I feel like that's a key thing to keep you grounded in the sense of your balance, trying to get everything in one day.
While we're on the topic of kind of Christ, what are some of your like goals ahead of for your future that you want to you have for your relationship and kind of like strengthening that?
Well, lately I've been trying to read more of my Bible, in the sense that like it's one of those things where it's always such a scary topic. Like, think about, oh, I have to like read this big book, and like it seems intimidating. But I've started like doing baby steps, experimenting. I've downloaded this app, and because in our day and age, we always have our phone, so I try to make the habit of reading my Bible as easy as possible. So if I have it on my phone, it makes it super easy for me to access, and I'm able to go to a certain part and turn on my phone and go back to the app, and I'm already back where I was. So I've been trying to experiment, just reading passages and going at my pace. And I feel like, and that's my future goals, is just to keep going at my pace, and don't be frightened by this big old book, or don't be frightened by your friends that on level 100, so to speak, on their journey, because everyone has their own steps, and you might just started your journey, but that doesn't mean you can't get to where someone else is. And also, God has a relationship with everyone. You just like how we have relationships with friends. We have this guy that we talk with sports, this guy we talk only in class, this guy we talk about other things. It's like everyone has their own certain relationships. So don't get overwhelmed that someone else has, quote unquote, a better relationship. It's just they have a different relationship with God, and then you have your own. So I just want to, my ultimate goal is to keep finding my way of having God in my life daily.
Okay, so the last question I have for you is, what advice would you give young athletes that are also looking to become a better person and an athlete, but also a better follower in Christ?
I would say, ultimately, it goes back to the whole thing of you have to realize that none of this matters, that your friend groups don't matter, the sport you play doesn't matter, that school doesn't matter. The only thing that should matter is God, in the sense that that's what you value the most. You would drop all those other things to make sure whatever God asks you to need, for whatever God wants you at the moment to do. And I believe that's ultimately when I've had the most success in school, when I stopped stressing about homework and just realized that God knows everything's going to happen for a reason. You know, those stressful tests, when you just put things in God's hands and just realize that He is the one that knows everything, you start having peace, and you're able to take that test with ease. You're able to make friends with the people that fit best with you. You're able to play your sport with peace. And I just feel like for athletes and kids and just in every aspect of life, when you put God first, everything else follows. So I would like to end the quote with, chase God and everything will chase you.
Okay, Brian, that's all we have for you today. I want to thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
Yep, I want to thank you for having me.
And then I also want to thank you guys, the listeners, for listening to this week's episode of Trojan Time. We'll see you next time.